Jesus said to his disciples, "If your brother does something wrong, go and have it out with him alone, between your two selves. If he listens to you, you've won back your brother. If he does not listen, take one or two others along with you. The evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses is required to sustain any charge. But if he refuses to listen to these, report it to the community. And if he refuses to listen to the community, treat him like a pagan or a tax collector. I tell you solemnly, whatever you bind on earth shall be considered bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth shall be considered loosed in heaven. I tell you solemnly once again, if 2 of you on earth agree to ask anything at all, it will be granted to you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 meet in my name, I shall be there with them." Isn't technology wonderful? It's really come into its own over these last few months of COVID-19. People are using technology in ways that they would never have imagined just a year ago. We're using it to host meetings on Zoom. Facebook has replaced parish bulletins, and YouTube is used to stream masses live into people's homes. WhatsApp, Snapchat, Twitter, they've all been used to great effect over recent months to help people keep in touch when otherwise they might not have been able to. Schools may be back, pupils in classes in front of teachers, but for many months, technology enabled them to continue to learn while not being able to access the school, while having to stay at home. If during this pandemic we've discovered something of the great power for good that technology and social media has, I think perhaps it's wise to remember that such power comes at a cost. As Peter Parker is often quoted as saying, "With great power comes great responsibility." And I don't think we always see that responsibility being used along with social media. Just look at some of the things that get tweeted and who tweets them. Some people seem to think that they should be able to post whatever they like on Facebook without a care of the consequences, without any consideration of how it might affect others who read it. It strikes me as being in sharp contrast with what Jesus talks about in the gospel. If your brother or sister offends you, have it out with them alone, by your two selves. Don't broadcast it on social media for the world to read about. Technology didn't invent the problem. Social media isn't responsible for it. Long before there was Facebook and mobile phones, people were offended by what others had said, even in Jesus' time. That's why he talks about it. He wasn't imagining some problem in the future. He was talking to his disciples about something real that affected people in his own day. People in his day were hurt and offended, wounded by what others did and said. They too found it difficult to approach them and talk to them personally. It's not easy to say to someone, especially if you care about them, "What you did upset me, hurt me, wounded me, offended me." Not if the relationship's important. But sometimes that's what needs to be done, to talk to them face to face. People gossiped in Jesus' day. The big difference is that in his day it would be a few people around the well or outside the synagogue, whereas now people gossip through phones and computers for all the world to see, and it's written down so that it never quite disappears. No, the problem wasn't created by technology, but it has been exacerbated by it. But maybe there's something in technology too that helps us understand what Jesus was really talking about. His problem is about motivation, about what drives us, about really trying to resolve the differences that exist between us. Not allowing a kind of half peace to exist that, well, if we ignore it, we won't argue about it. But a real harmony, a real peacefulness to exist that involves talking to the people who cause us offense, but doing so with a desire to restore peace, to restore the relationship, to save the relationship, not just to score points or to point out that you think someone is wrong. That's the real challenge of the gospel, isn't it? To ask ourselves why we do these things. Do we remind somebody that we have been hurt because we want to move on in our relationship and put that hurt behind us? Or do we want to trumpet it to the world to let everybody know, I've been offended, my pride has been wounded, my feelings have been hurt? Do we want to resolve situations quietly, or do we want to just elicit the support of anyone who will listen to us? Do we want to proclaim our opinion to the world? Or are we open to listening to the opinion of someone else? Yeah, I know I hurt you, but this is why I behaved the way I did. No, social media is a powerful tool. And during the pandemic, we've been able to use it in all sorts of ways for good. But as one Facebook post said recently, dirty laundry belongs in a laundry basket, not in a Facebook post. What Jesus calls for from his disciples is that when differences exist between us, we approach one another and try to resolve those differences and not just broadcast them to the world.